Hi, my name is Ed Bouye, and I'm on the sales and design staff here at Hi-Fi Buys in Nashville, Tennessee. Today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about some of the more sophisticated two-channel stereo listening systems we have here available at our store. You know, our first attempts at recording sounds were done back in the late 1800s. They were pretty crude, to say the least, but the idea behind them has been the same since then until today. And that is to capture all of the fine nuances of a performance, whether it's spoken word, orchestral, or nature sounds, and be able to reproduce them in another location at another time faithfully. I've been a professional woodwind player since the mid-1970s, and I still play almost every week today. I've had the advantages of playing with everything from orchestral groups to small jazz ensembles and big rock and roll bands. And it kind of gives me a unique perspective on the listening side about recorded music. Having been around it and made so much of it over my life, and understanding what the different instruments are supposed to sound like, helps me realize the fine differences between different types of equipment and how different speakers sound. It's kind of a very nice thing to have in my back pocket when it comes to listening to different music and different equipment. We talked a little bit about the earliest recordings in the late 1800s being kind of crude. In the 1930s, we were able to add electronics to the playback area, but things were still not up to the level that we wanted them to be. One of the problems was it was a monophonic system, one microphone, one speaker. During playback, the sound was very flat and one-dimensional. Well, the solution was actually pretty simple and elegant. We have two ears. If we have two speakers that play slightly different information, we can now open the sound up and recreate some of that space that was not able to be done with just one speaker. Now, the vast majority of the library of recorded music and spoken word that we have available to us today is still recorded in two channels, and that's why we're focusing on two-channel listening systems today. Nowadays, we can take almost our complete music library and put it on a handheld device that's a little digital music player. We can carry that whole library around with us and listen to it at any time. But that's a pretty big compromise in terms of fidelity and the quality of the music that we listen to. As a matter of fact, there are a lot of people today that have never really heard great stereo. They listen to it through their digital player and their earbuds. There's a much better way to listen to music, and that's one of the things that we want to help you experience here at Hi-Fi Buys. Now, we talked a little bit about how adding electronics to the playback process helped in the 1930s, but we were still relatively crude and still monophonic. It wasn't until the very early 1950s that a company called McIntosh Labs here in the United States came up with an amplifier design that for the first time could reproduce from 20 hertz all the way to 20,000 hertz, which is the range of human hearing, and do it at a very low distortion. McIntosh equipment is still made here in the United States today, and we're very proud to represent it here at Hi-Fi Buys. Now, we are talking about analog recording and analog playback because sound is analog. My vocal cords vibrate, strings on a bass vibrate, the reed of a saxophone vibrate. Those vibrations are captured by the microphone, and then the speakers themselves vibrate and move to bring the sound back out. The first amplification was done using tube technology, which is still used by many people today. As a matter of fact, there are quite a few people that believe that a turntable playing an LP in a pure analog system comes closer to recreating a live musical event than those done in the digital domain. Now, we've all seen CD players out there on the market today for well under $100. So it kind of begs the question, why are there CD players out there that cost thousands of dollars? The answer is really pretty simple. They sound better. Think about a guitar, entry-level student model type, played by a really consummate musician, and then that same musician playing a really good Gibson or Martin. Those guitars are going to sound significantly different. And even the more modest two-channel systems that we have available to us today will reveal the shortcomings of lesser quality equipment. It doesn't have to be ridiculously expensive, but it does have to have a very good design, and it does have to be built well. Now, high fidelity, or hi-fi as it was known in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, is the experience of really well recorded and really well played back musical performances. Here at Hi-Fi Buys, it's in our blood and it's even in our name. It's something that we believe very strongly to be a personal experience. All of the equipment that's in this room is here for you to come listen to and evaluate and eventually enjoy. Of all the different pieces that make up a really nice stereo playback system, from the source components like CD players or turntables, the control equipment like preamplifiers, amplification necessary to step those really small electrical impulses up to a level that can be used by a loudspeaker, speakers themselves are the biggest difference that a component will make in a system. Every speaker sounds different. Most of the people that design those speakers want them to sound different because everyone has a slightly different idea of how they should get to that ultimate goal of perfect reproduction of a wonderful live music performance. As you go throughout listening to different types of equipment, every time you change speakers, that equipment will sound significantly different. We have quite a few pairs of speakers in this room and 4 different stacks of audio equipment you can listen to them through. Rather than using switchers or things like that degrade the sound quality, we actually have long speaker cables that we can route across the floor to allow any piece of electronics to drive any pair of speakers in the room. Most of the speakers are already placed for their optimum position to sound best in this room, and it's a great way to be able to help get an idea of which speakers sound most lifelike to you. The room in your home has a lot to do with how the system will sound also. Our ability to come out to your house and take a look at the environment that you want to do this kinds of system in goes a long way towards us helping make good recommendations to you to get you started on the right path. So in closing, I'd like to invite you down here to Hi-Fi Buys in Nashville, Tennessee to take a look at some of the equipment we've talked about today, and more importantly, to listen to it. Whether it's your first time doing something like that, all you've ever listened to is your digital player and your earbuds, or if you've been doing this all your life in search of that almost unobtainable audio nirvana, we would love for you to come by. But remember, you should bring some of your own demonstration material. Music that you're really familiar with will go a long way towards helping you compare the sometimes very small differences between how different equipment and speakers can sound. So that's what Hi-Fi Buys is all about. It's a place where you can come, listen to things, and have a hands-on experience with some of the finest equipment that's out there today. It's also a place where if you find something you like, you can buy it, take it home, and enjoy it for the rest of your life.